Having been invoked, the Senate will proceed to executive session, and the clerk will report the nomination.
Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas, of the District of Columbia, to be Deputy Secretary.
Under the previous order, the Senate will be in a period of morning business for debate only, with senators permitted to speak for up to 10 minutes each. Majority Leader?
On the table.
Without objection.
Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid had laid out a schedule for the chamber to stay in session from tonight through Saturday to continue working on nominations, but then Senate leaders reached a deal and plans changed. Senators approved the $625 billion defense programs bill with a vote of 84 to 15. Some of those voting against, Senators Barrasso, Coburn, Crapo, Merkley, and then Senators Session and Wyden. And then the chamber went on to move forward with the nomination of Alejandro Mayorkas to be Deputy Secretary of the Homeland Security Department. And here's where things changed. There will be 6 roll call votes in the morning at 10 Eastern, including final passage of the Mayorkas nomination and votes on Josh Koskinen to be head of the IRS, Brian Davis to be a district judge in Florida. Now, Brian Davis has waited more than 650 days for a confirmation vote in the Senate. The chamber will also vote on whether to advance Janet Yellen's nomination to lead the Federal Reserve. Wanted to read a couple stories about passage of the Defense Programs Bill. Politico writes the Senate approved a sweeping defense policy bill late Thursday that protects troop bonuses and reforms some ways the Pentagon handles sexual assaults in the military, but leaves debates for another day on major issues, from Iran sanctions to NSA eavesdropping. The 84-15 vote followed a drawn-out partisan spat that at times appeared to threaten the annual bill. Senate Republicans particularly fumed about the compromise legislation's movement through Congress on a fast track with no opportunity for amendments. That was in Politico. Now, in the Associated Press, the legislation now heads to President Obama for his signature. The bill would provide $633 billion for military personnel, ships, aircraft, and bases. It would also give the president additional flexibility in deciding the fate of terrorist suspects at the detention center at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
Senator from Arkansas.
Mr. President, I understand that we are not in a quorum call, so I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of H-Con Res. 71, which was received from the House.
Clerk will report.
H-Con Res. 71, providing for corrections to the enrollment of the bill H.R. 3304.
Is there objection to proceeding to the measure? Without objection, the Senate will proceed.
I ask unanimous consent that the concurrent resolution be read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of H.R. 2319, which is at the desk.
Clerk will report.
H.R. 2319, an act to clarify certain provisions of the Native American Veterans Memorial Establishment Act of 1994.
Is there objection to proceeding to the measure? Without objection, the Senate will proceed.
I further ask that the bill be read 3 times and passed, and the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the Indian Affairs Committee be discharged from further consideration of H.R. 623 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration.
Clerk will report.
H.R. 623, an act to provide for the conveyance of certain property located in Anchorage, Alaska, from the United States to the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium.
Is there objection to proceeding to the measure? Without objection, the committee is discharged and the Senate will proceed.
I further ask that the bill be read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Energy Committee be discharged from further consideration of H.R. 767 and the Senate proceed to its consideration.
Clerk will report.
H.R. 767, an act to amend the Energy Policy Act of 2005 to modify the pilot project offices of the Federal Permit Streamlining Pilot Project.
Is there objection?
Without objection, the committee is discharged and the Senate will proceed.
Without objection, the committee is discharged and the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the bill be read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that the Judiciary Committee be discharged from further consideration of S. 1614 and the Senate proceed to its consideration.
The clerk will report.
S. 1614, a bill to require certificates of citizenship and other federal documents to reflect name and date of birth determinations made by a state court and for other purposes.
Is there objection?
Without objection, the committee is discharged and the Senate will proceed to the measure.
Without objection, the committee is discharged and the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the bill be read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I understand that there are 2 bills at the desk, and I ask for their first reading en bloc.
The clerk will read the titles of the bill for the first time.
Clerk will read the titles of the bills for the first time.
S. 1859, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to extend certain expiring provisions and for other purposes. S. 1881, a bill to expand sanctions imposed with respect to Iran and to impose additional sanctions with respect to Iran and for other purposes.
Mr. President, I now ask for a second reading en bloc, and I object to my own request en bloc.
Objection having been heard, the bills will be read for a second time on the next legislative day.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the appointment at the desk appear separately in the record as if made by the chair.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it adjourn until 9:00 a.m. on Friday, December 20th, 2013, that following the prayer and pledge, the morning hour be deemed expired, the journal of proceedings be approved to date, and the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, and that following any leader remarks, the Senate resume executive session under the previous order.
Without objection.
There will be 6 roll call votes at approximately 10:15 a.m. tomorrow. If there is no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it adjourn under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow.
The Senate stands adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Senate Majority Leader Reid had laid out a schedule for the chamber to stay in session from tonight through Saturday to continue work on nominations, but Senate leaders reached a deal and plans changed. They're out now after approving the $625 billion defense programs bill with a vote of 84 to 15. The chamber then tonight voted to move forward with the nomination of Alejandro Mayorkas to be Deputy Secretary of the Homeland Security Department. There'll be 6 roll call votes in the morning at 10 Eastern, including final passage of the Mayorkas nomination and votes on John Koskinen to head the IRS and Brian Davis to be a district judge in Florida. The chamber will also vote on whether to advance Janet Yellen's nomination to lead the Federal Reserve. Final passage on Janet Yellen will happen after the holiday break on January 6th. The Senate is coming back in the morning at 9, and we'll have live coverage here on C-SPAN 2.